you see we handling grown folks' business?
This one's for the grown and sexy. Grown and sexy.
I love it.
I love it.
You already know.
By Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
Well, I like the sound of that.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Straight No Chaser, where we never dilute the issues. We only serve the hard stuff. It's the Chief, and welcome to another episode of Straight No Chaser, and we're really glad to have you here. And but before we go any further, of course, we have to introduce the man, the myth, the legend. It's Dr. T. How you doing, sir?
Good evening.
Outstanding. And of course, you know we can't go any further without introducing the fan favorite. And of course, she's back. It's Katie Shannon. How you doing?
Good evening. I'm good. How are you? How's everyone tonight?
Good. It's good to see everybody back. Well, you know, tonight we're going to talk about a very serious issue, and you know, something that has been in the news all over the place, and that's the issue of these juvenile takeovers that we've been seeing all over the place. There have been, you know, just numerous incidents all across the country where we see these things that are happening. And you know, and it's creating quite an alarming amount of concern. And you see people are getting injured, some people are getting killed. You know, it's just been a mess. And so tonight we wanted to just kind of delve into it a little bit, just to kind of see what some of the thoughts are of not only folks around the country, but we also brought a couple of experts in to help us discuss that. And so, tonight, I'm very happy to have two law enforcement giants with us tonight. The first gentleman is a man that I work with for many years, and it's Assistant Chief Retired Craig Howard, formerly of the Prince George's Police Department, and he's certainly been in the game for a long time. Over 30 years in the business. And then, of course, the second man we have is Sergeant Charles Yarba, retired from the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. And, you know, together these gentlemen have, you know, over 60 years of law enforcement experience, working in a variety of assignments, you know, including the training division and patrol and, you know, community divisions, youth divisions, and they really worked in a variety of assignments that certainly give them the expertise to kind of share some thoughts tonight. Then the other thing that we have the benefit of is that, you know, we have Sophisticated Shannon and Dr. T, who are two very seasoned educators. And again, you know, between the two of them, we're talking about, you know, over 50 years of educational experience. And, you know, they've both worked in challenging situations. They work with young people that had a host of challenges, you know, with you know, achieving and behaving and so forth. So we have a really good group of folk that can kind of help us to break this issue out and just kind of talk about it a little bit. So, you know, I guess I'm going to get started and just kind of talk about, you know, why, you know, between you, Dr. T, and Sophisticated Shannon and Sarge and Chief Howard, why do you think this is happening? What's going on?
Go ahead, Doc.
Hey, I was just going to let you guys first go as our guest. I can say I'll just start right off the bat. Just parents are not being parents.
I'm just going to chime in, Chief, and just say that there's several factors that, you know, have been identified that I found in this family instability, socio-economic disadvantages, money, environmental influences, and psychological influences that are driving these young people out into the street with some of the crazy things that we're seeing going on.
Wow. Now, do you think it? And I know you all talked about some of the background and all the other challenges, but just as you look at I guess the level of stupidity, that's the best word I could use for it, that's going on. What do you think? I mean, some of these kids are coming from families where, there is a mom and a dad, or there's a concerned parent in the home. And then others, of course, have some other challenges. But I mean, when you look at kids that are just, for example, you're going into a Safeway or a Vons, as it's called out here, and 50 kids just rush in and start stealing hamburgers and canned goods and potato chips and just run it out like they're Banjis. I mean, what do you think like that? What do you think?
I think Chief, from our perspective, looking at it, there's a lot of things that we can, say there's a cause of it. I think, lack of structure in the household, social media has a lot to do with it. And a lot of these young folks are just, instead of leaders, they're followers. Somebody does something, somebody makes a suggestion, and they, follow right into it. And I think that's one of the things that definitely needs to be discussed and something to take into consideration.
Okay. What do you think? What are your thoughts, Shannon?
I agree. I feel it do start at home, and then sometimes our teenage kids, they follow their peers, and sometimes they just don't make the best choices. I'm not saying everyone household is not well put together.
Sure.
Sometimes other peers can, talk you into doing things that that's not correct or right.
Sure.
And then we spoke about social media. I think this era is, what can I do for a like? So
Sure.
If you notice, anytime that something happened, everybody is camera ready. So
Sure.
pretty much, what can we do for a like?
Wow. So
That's real talk, China. That's real talk, China.
So I mean, you've seen it, from some of your dealings with some of these young people. And do any of them just say, the reason that we do this is because of X, Y, and Z?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow. So what do you think should be done about it?
That's a great question. I think as long as we have social media, it's going to be hard to do anything. I totally agree that this is how many likes I can get
Sure.
right now. So if it's good or bad, like what do they say? Good publicity or bad, either or. They're going to do either or. So I think that's sad, but that's where we're at.
Wow.
Get paid from it. They can go viral. It's so many different things that they're thinking of that make sense.
Well, from an educational perspective, I know we can look at it a couple of different ways. From an educationally, we can look at the criminal aspect. But from the educator's perspective, what do you think some of the challenges are, and what solutions would you all do as educators?
I wish we can go back to no phones in the school.
Okay.
That's what I wish. But
Okay.
that is never going to happen. So if you take a kid's phone now, they trying to fight. So it's the phone. The phone is the power.
Wow.
I think along with the phones are the people that are, look at a lot of the quote unquote leaders that they have. Most of them are rappers, male and female, especially within the Black community. And I think that if we hold them accountable and have them to look at this from a different perspective, bring them together and ask them, how does this make sense? What can they do to help out? A lot of the young folks, that's who they follow. They, listen to us, but it goes in one end, go out the other. I think that who they mostly listen to, who they socialize with, it's not us. We old as dirt, we old school, and they ain't about that. They're about what's going on currently right now in today's society. So if we get them together in a group setting and talk to them, male and female. I mean, a lot of these rappers are raunchy. They say some stuff that you would never think that will come out of a male or female's mouth, but that's what they do. So getting them into a room, or maybe trying to get them to understand the importance of what's going on, I think would be one of the ways of possibly bringing a solution to this problem.
And from the criminal perspective, what do you and Assistant Chief Howard see from your perspectives?
Mike, I went back and looked at the crime statistics for juvenile crime in 2024 and 2025, and believe it or not, with all the wild and out that we see going on around the country with these young people, 2005 FBI juvenile crime data shows that there's a 4.2% decline in drop in juvenile violent crime and a 5.3% drop in juvenile property crime. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of surprising to me with all the things that we're seeing going on with social media out there. I think with these cameras and stuff that we're seeing, we would have thought that those numbers would have been up, and with all the reports we're seeing across the country for juveniles shutting down shopping centers, downtown Atlanta, the police chief and the mayor here and the city council basically doing the same thing they're doing up in Maryland. You can't be in certain areas after certain times. If you're there, you have to be escorted by someone 18 years or older. And, but the social media, as Charles and Shannon is saying, is driving this whole thing. But the main thing I see from it is there are no consequences in the juvenile justice system. And these young people know that. You know what I mean? If I get snatched up off the street and they take my car, they might impound my car, but they're not locking me up. I'm gonna be home tomorrow. And for a lot of these young people, that's getting snatched up or arrested. That's a badge of honor. Now you real people now.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed, Mr. Howard, you talked about kids have the badge of honor. Recently, I think it was in Vegas or LA, where this mom was arrested because her son killed somebody in a one of those motor bicycles. The parent was warned before, but I guess the young man continued to do it. He was 15 years old, so they arrested mom. And I applauded that because it's okay. In some families, it's not a village. It's basically parents. I'm the parent. You do everything I tell you to do. Nobody else can correct you. So I was very happy to see that the mom was charged and was arrested and put in jail.
I'm sorry.
I had a situation in Michigan where the young man went into the school, shot people. They charged both parents for that shooting. And they just did the same thing down here in Georgia, where the young kid, 15-year-old, went into a high school and killed three of his classmates and a teacher. And what we're seeing down here in the South, a lot of these schools now are taking these phones when these kids walk into school, and you cannot have your phone during the school day. They're taking the phones when they walk in, putting them in pouches. And from what the teachers and administrators are saying over here in Georgia, in the Atlanta area, they're saying that they're able to control their classrooms a lot better.
Yeah.
We have the pouches here in Las Vegas, but I don't think it works as well here because every teacher is not doing it. I think if every teacher did the pouches here, it probably would work as a whole.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Shannon, and Craig, what you're saying. I think it has to be a wholesale operation. You can't have one group doing one thing and another group doing something else, because the statistics will show that there's no question about it. It works, along with the fact of, like Dr. T was saying, you start getting on these parents. Some of these parents are not as, I guess for lack of better words, it's not as forceful as they should, and allowing their children to say and do whatever. So sometimes the parents have to be held accountable. And Craig made a good point down here in Georgia, where they allowed their children to get access to weapons. They knew that they had some mental issues or whatever. So holding these parents accountable, I think, is one of the best ways of trying to help deal with the situation too.
I agree with that, but I still feel like the kids should be punished as well. Just don't punish the parents, because the kid's still gonna be out there doing what he was doing before. I think it should be as a whole. Like, if my son did X, Y, and Z, we both should be punished for it, I guess.
No, well, I mean, that's, well, we got to look at it like this from this perspective. If both of them in jail or both of them incarcerated, then it becomes an issue of the home. And what if they have little ones at the home that have nothing to do with this? So we have to kind of figure that one out. And I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think we have to look at it from the perspective of what's going to be the most repercussions. How do we correct this? And a lot of people want to think that, just incarcerating and throwing them in jail, from Craig and our perspective, from law enforcement perspective, there's only so much you can do. And then they got to be taken care of and so on and so forth. How long do we keep them in jail? That becomes a big issue along with the family environment. So it's a twofold. We have to figure out what is going to be the best thing. I think taking their phones away, or maybe instead of taking their cars, they no longer can have a cell phone for months and months. I think that would be more. Some of them would prefer, take them in and beat them to death before you take their phones away. So there's ways of doing it. We just have to figure out what's going to be the best way of doing it and keep it universal. We can't have one state doing one thing and another state doing something else.
Right.
So, I guess from both of your perspectives, do you, and let's separate it out. Do you think that if tomorrow morning you were able to wave your magic wand and they decided, okay, the next group of takeovers that happens, every parent that we can identify, we're charging them, and every child that we're identifying, we can charge them. Do you think that will have any impact whatsoever on what's going on? Just starting there.
I think it may have a little impact, but at some point, you got to hold these young people accountable for their actions and stop making excuses for them. You know what I mean? We were all held accountable for the things that we did. And, sometimes admonishment is not a bad thing, you know what I mean? Or, to be tapped on your wrist, or something taken away from you, taking a person's freedom away from them will get their attention. And we're not trying to lock up all these juveniles, but then we got to look at the influence of some of these adults on these juveniles. Who's holding them? Now, when I'm not even talking about the parents, I'm talking about the people they're running with. You know what I mean? So, it's more, I think it's more to go with this situation than just dealing with these kids. And this thing like it has 10 or 20 different arms, and where do you, holes all over the place, where do you stop it?
I think one of the other things, Chief, along with what Craig is saying, is the monetary factor. Start putting a monetary factor on it. If these young folks go out here and they're destroying stuff and taking stuff or whatever the case may be, then once they find out who the parent is, hey, this is the bill, you have to pay. And just like the IRS, they come in and garnish their checks. And Craig's making a good point, some of these young people work. Some of them have jobs.
Sure.
So this is another way to hit them on the monetary side. The incarceration is I get it, but I think when you start affecting people's pockets and their livelihood, that can make a big change. And I think that's something to take into consideration as well.
Sure. Yeah, and it's interesting you said that, because I think when you look at some of the strategies that have been tried over the last, I guess, couple months, they're looking at cell phones and work camps and all these other types of things, and it doesn't seem like it's having an impact in certain areas. In certain places, for example, in Baltimore, they're having one hell of a time with these dirt bike riders. They're just all over the place, and you wonder, okay, my son is 12 years old now. Where the hell did he get a brand new mini bike from? And I know he's not in the house. But it's 2:00 in the morning, and the boy's 12 years old, and he's out riding a mini bike. Come on. I'm not understanding that.
Hey, y'all, if we could find an answer to this question, I think we all be rich.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm serious.
Let's find an answer.
Right. I think educators, law enforcement, elected officials, everybody is dealing with this issue and trying to come up with a solution to address this problem.
One of the ways, and thinking outside of the box a little bit, is law enforcement has drones. So when they're out riding on these bikes, put the drones up, identify some of these young folks, go get a warrant, go snatch up the bike, and then also you get the monetarily fund for having the drones going up, calling law enforcement out, and some of them get injured. Now you got the fire department and EMS involved. So you start putting some money on this and putting them in a position where now they're not only held liable, taking things away from them, but also there's a bill behind them out there cutting up and acting up. Because when you call law enforcement and law enforcement comes out, we are patrolling, and now we got to go out and try to, we don't even chase them anymore now at this point in time because of the possibility of serious injuries and people getting hurt and killed. So if they out here riding and they cause accidents and so forth, and they just ride off into the sunset, you put that drone up, identify them, and they have to pay for these accidents. And think about it, and Craig and I can definitely speak on this when they out here robbing or breaking into someone's home. A lot of these young kids, they'll get in the car, they're driving 90 miles an hour. You on your way to work, Doc's on his way to a meeting, and Sophisticated's on the way to pick up her children, and then there's an accident. Then they wind up suing the police. But yet still, they keep driving off, or they get into an accident, they get out the car and they run like cheaters and they're gone. So now we're in that same situation, So I think that you have to start looking at it from the monetarily fund and making them pay for these issues that they're bringing up in the community.
Sure.
One of the things I found that was very interesting when they started talking to these young people about these street takeovers and why they're doing it, the one answer that I'm hearing consistently coming from them is, we didn't have anything else to do. There's nothing for us to do. Now, that's what I've been hearing recently. There's nothing for us to do. So for them, they can't find anything else to do to go to shut down a major intersection in the community. I just can't understand that. Have y'all heard anything similar to that?
Yes. I was coming up with a couple of solutions, and that was the top one. Teams say they don't have things to do, like give them strong parent and family involvement. What was another one? Social media monitoring. It was another one I thought was a good one. Police, community partnerships. But most of the things that they give them to do is like sports and stuff like that. Some kids are really into sports, but they're not into sports like it was back in the day, because a lot of people like to sit home and stroll social media. So that makes sense too. So I know my biggest thing is I try to keep my kids active at school, like give them outlets to do things, if that makes sense. But the ones that used to get into a lot of trouble, they're not getting into as much trouble. So I want to say it's kind of working. That's just my opinion, but I can't save the whole school. So it's like the 5 or 6 that I, see every day, on a daily basis, just to make sure they're doing better than they were before.
Yeah, I think that.
How did you reach those 5 or 6?
They started just talking to me, and we just started talking about different things. And yeah, they come from broken homes or whatever. A couple of them might live with their grandparents, and the mother drops in and out. So they probably look at me more of like a coach and a mother figure put together, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead, Chief. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, sir.
No, I was going to say Shannon made a good point. I think that we can all attest to this, is that when I was growing up in the predominantly black neighborhood, you had skills. You had elders that were teaching how to lay bricks, how to be an electrician, a plumber, and a lot of that has gone away from the black neighborhood. So Shannon made a good point. Everybody's not into football, basketball. That's what we do. We give them a football, give them a basketball, and hope they make it to the NBA or the NFL. And quite naturally, that doesn't happen quite often. As a matter of fact, only maybe 10% of the children that go to basketball or football in college to make it to the NBA or the NFL and have a career. You can make it, you can be there for a little while, but we're talking about something that's long lasting. So teaching these young folks how to build a home, how to be an electrician, how to paint, those things go a long way. There's only so much that AI can do and robots can do. But I think that looking at it from that perspective, that needs to go back into the Black neighborhoods and having these educating centers where they're not just teaching about AI, but they're teaching how to use their hands and the skills and their ability to think in relationship to how they can make things better for the neighborhood as well as for our community as well. So I think we need to look into that and see how we can introduce that back into the neighborhoods.
So that's what we talk about. We talk about that a lot because we talk about AI and how AI is taking the jobs up. And I always tell them they can't take your hands away. If you don't want to go to school, be a master, whatever it is, a master barber, a master plumber, a master electrician, because a plumber makes more than a doctor. So we talk about stuff like that. I have girls that do hair and they're amazing with it. And I'm telling them how to get licensed so they, can run their own business and to put positive stuff on their social media. So yeah, that's the stuff we talk about, and that's how we form a connection.
I think there's one thing that we're missing, Chief, that's very important. Those programs that Charles was talking about and Shannon are talking about, in most jurisdictions in public schools, they didn't find those programs anymore. Where there used to be, shop where you could learn to work on a car, or the girls could learn to be beauticians or barbers and stuff like that. A lot of places around the country, they aren't finding those programs anymore. So that doesn't leave these kids with a lot of other options out there. You know what I mean? So if everybody's not going to college, everybody's not interested in college, and a lot of kids aren't interested in going in the military or anything like that. So it's a conundrum for them. And being retired law enforcement, I'm not gonna lie to you, it frustrated me to death. And Chief, you can attest to this, and so can you, Charles, that we had to come up with summer programs. Like we were the only social, we were the nonprofit that took care of the whole county's kids. And people got to the point expecting that. We can help out, but it's not the police department's job to be, a summer resource every summer for every kid. That's not why we did. There are other agencies out there that need to step up. That's just what I feel about it. And if we said anything about it, people looked at us like we were crazy. That used to really get on my nerves.
Sure. I think Craig's making a very good point. When we talk about the programs that have been taken away, we got to look at the churches, the nonprofit organizations, these millionaires out here that are, and some of them have done, some have stepped up, but I think that we can't sit around and wait for someone to do something for us that we can do for ourselves. So we're saying that we can get property and start these programs on our own. We don't have to wait around, and we think that they're going to come and bail us out. We're sadly mistaken. I ain't got no problem putting a gun store in our neighborhoods, or a liquor store, or funeral home, or rapping and all this other stuff. They ain't got no problem with that. So we have to rethink our process and make it happen for ourselves. And I think that there's ways of doing it. There's nothing saying that we can't buy property and have some of our elders come in as educators, as teachers, and Dr. T and Sophisticated will talk about those things. Give them a place where they can come in and have the resources in order to do what they need to do. We got people out here got money coming out their ears, but what are they doing with it? These rappers, and I have to resort to that because that's what's currently going on right now. A lot of these young men, especially down here, when I came down to Atlanta, I'm just amazed at how these young men are walking around with this extensions in their head, their pants hanging off their behinds, and even with these young kids, like 5 or 6 years old, they can't comb their hair. And I get it, but I'm like, stop with the madness. It just drives me crazy. And have these women walking around here, butt cheeks hanging out. I'm like, put some clothes on. Stop. Look in the mirror before you go outside. If you think that makes sense, you're wrong. But again, of course, like with maternity clothes. When I was growing up, young women had maternity clothes on. This young girl came in and she had a halter type on, her belly sticking out. She had on coochie shorts. I'm like, what? Okay, maybe it's me. I think it's me.
That's the truth, though. But that's the culture now. Everything is
Wow.
tight, pregnant or not. Even if you could be 300 pounds, you still gonna have a halter top on. That's what it is.
Wow.
Well, that
It
goes,
is.
that goes back with that.
So it's
Wow.
like
With,
it's the
but that
Wow.
norm
goes back to
now.
what I was saying.
I
Because
think
we have to have,
everybody goes to that store. 2 sizes too small. I don't know, but
12.
So you
but
telling me that the pregnant girls are also going to Butt Cheeks or Us to shop?
yes,
yes. Doc, look, I'm a grown man,
it's
so I
the
gotta
new
close. I gotta
norm.
close my eyes, man.
Yeah.
No, stop. And I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, but I think that we have lost our way when it comes
Yeah.
down to what a woman looks like. That can be attractive. A woman that's pregnant can be attractive. You don't have to be this hoochie mama with. Obviously, something happened. There's a baby inside of you. We get all that. But when are you gonna stop?
Yeah.
You know they calling you up right now. They
Oh,
pissed
I'm-
you out there in the world right now. I'm just letting you
That's
know.
right. That's right. That's right, man.
Craig, you ain't right, man. But I really believe that that's so true because when we were growing up, there were certain things that a man looked like. There were certain things that a woman looked like, and I think that we've gotten away from that. And a lot of this is based upon the things that they see, the social media, and very rarely do you see a young woman at this state that's pregnant that has on maternity clothes that looks beautiful, is walking with pride. I'm proud to be a mother or a father. Matter of fact, my little granddaughter, she's 5. So I took her to a sneaker ball, and I had my suit and tie on. You should have seen some of them fathers coming in there. They looked like they was getting ready to go to a rap concert. Couldn't put on anything to represent being what a father looks like. And then there was one woman that came in there, and no offense, but it is what it is. She had 2 basketballs behind her, 2 of them, and had on a pink one piece. 2 basketballs, NBA on both sides.
Oh, she had one of those Brazilian butt lifts. One of those things.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
And I mean,
That's a real street takeover right there.
Yeah, that's
that
is a street takeover.
She almost made me puke when she walked in. I was like, this is not for you. This is for your daughter. I'm like, really, lady?
Well, it technically was for her. She was probably looking.
Oh, absolutely. You lucky you didn't get snatched up, Sarge. Because don't you still have a dental plan?
Oh boy! I think I'm just old school, man.
The
There's
next
nothing
one.
wrong with that. And I know that Dr. T and some kids say that you can have old school and new school. You can merge the two of them, but it's got to be out of respect. It's got to be something that makes sense. That you look like something that you will be able to take home to your family. But at this point in time, I don't think that really matters anymore like it used to.
Right. I think one of the problems that we see all the time, and as a school principal, I had a parent pick up their daughter, and she was in a one piece, and you can see her undergarments. I think more of the parents are now wanting to be their kids' friends, and they don't want to be the bad guy, if you will. They don't want to be the disciplinarian. So I think that's some of the problem, where again, we need to have a village to raise children, but most of the time the responsibility is towards our police officers and towards our school personnel.
Yeah, I agree. And just real quick, let's take another look at this is what they're dealing with in Baltimore, just very briefly. Let me pull this up for you. Take a peek at this, you guys and lady, and let me hear what your thoughts are.
As warmer weather returns, dirt bikes and ATV groups are making a comeback as well.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor's live breaking down the new video showing a large group weaving through traffic around the Inner Harbor. Rebecca.
Mary and Kai, the concerns, they span from reckless riding in broad daylight to a crash that happened later in the evening. All of it happening right here in the heart of Baltimore City.
Sunshine, flowers in bloom, and a city coming back to life. The sights of spring returning. as are the sounds.
And none more in helmets.
New cell phone video posted to social media showing dozens of dirt bikers and ATVs taking over Light Street. Some diverting to the Inner Harbor, others riding dangerously close to cars.
They're terrorizing.
Weaving through traffic. Hours later, more cell phone video showing a large police presence on the same street responding to an accident.
I just got a message from the Central saying that it was about 40 dirt bikes and one of them crashed.
It was complete chaos.
City resident Tapora Belazikian drove through just before the accident, but says she almost witnessed one herself.
Some kids on scooters that looked no more than like 11 or 12 came the wrong way down Light Street. And then swerved in front of the car in front of me after they were moving through the green light. I thought I was going to have a heart attack just as a mother.
She also recalls seeing dozens of juveniles gathering inside the harbor. A similar.
So what are your thoughts on that, gentleman and lady?
Well, Mike, I remember right before I left the police department, coming off the Interstate 50 in Maryland, turning on the 95 to head toward Virginia. And it was about 30 or 40 guys on bikes and four-wheel drives like that coming out of DC. And as we turned on the Interstate 95 headed south, these jokers shut the entire interstate down. Interstate 95, they did a rolling roadblock, shut it down. I called the barrack commander for the state police and told them what was going on, and they got out there. But one of the things I noticed was the terror on the faces of some of the drivers in these cars, because they were afraid to try to go around them, because these guys were trying to intimidate them, and they shut the entire interstate down. And Interstate 95 is a major highway that runs from Maine all the way to Florida. And and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, unbelievable. You know what I mean? So this has been going on for a while, they don't want you to chase them, like you said, and it's happening so unexpectedly. If you knew where they were coming and when they were coming, and that goes back to monitoring them on social media, putting our people inside of their clubs to get information on where they're going to be and where they're going to come. I think the police departments can step up a little bit more and put some of these young people in these units that know how to monitor those sites, and you get out there and blend in with them to get out in front of it. That's the only thing I can see. And if they're stopped and arrested, they're going to have to put some fines on these young people, to show them that this is unacceptable.
Well, Craig's making a good point. That's one of the things that the same thing happened in D.C. Matter of fact, I was on my way into D.C. and right there on 50, they did the same exact thing. They pulled up, and they're doing that. Actually, I was involved in a lot of Black Lives Matter protests in D.C. before I left the department. So they would block up the street with their bikes, and as a matter of fact, banging on the cars and things of that nature. So, of course, quite naturally, it's going to make some drivers fearful and so forth. But I think that's one of the ways of doing it. There's no question about it. And of course, again, when law enforcement gets called in, the ambulance gets called in, once we find out who these people are, where they live, then start sending them bills. I think that's one of the ways of doing it, and confiscate these bikes. I think the drones being put up will help with identifying some of them and their activities and so forth. And then going to some of the schools and showing these young folks these are the things that can happen, and putting it out there. Well, when some of the teachers are teaching and so forth, let them know what's going on out there. And there are some young folks out there that are not with this program. They're not with all of this, but we have to reach those that are out there, and they might have some influence on their peers as well.
Well, let me play devil's advocate for a minute. So let's say that you see a group going down Route 50, or they're out here on the I-15, you're able to stop and identify everybody and so forth, and we take them in and start the booking process and what have you. And fines are levied. Let's just say everybody's levied with a $200 fine, and or even more. Let's say $500. So what are we doing with the families that can't afford it? I guess my question is, how much punishment is adequate and effective. And considering when you think about, when we look at where we are now, where folks can't even afford gasoline, you know, so now we're going to hit them with a $500 fine that this family probably can't pay in the first place for a variety of reasons. So what do we do in those cases? And this is, again, just playing devil's advocate.
You know what, Mike?
Yes,
I can't meet. It's civil disobedience. That's basically what it is. And when you're disrupting a community with the things that they're out there doing, and they're breaking the law, and you're impeding, you know, law-abiding citizens' ability to go about their day, to go to work, to go home or wherever they're going, and they can't do that, and you're putting people in harm's way, I don't care that they can't pay the fine. If they can't pay the fine, take those vehicles, those motorcycles or whatever they are, take them from them, confiscate them. You know what I mean? You know, next time they'll think about it. We got to do something, you know, and there has to be consequences for bad behavior. And, you know, I don't care that they can't afford to pay the fine, but they're out there riding on those bikes and shutting down the streets, you know, driving their cars in a circle. So obviously, you know, they got enough money to spend on gas to do that. Well, take the car, take it. Some people might not like that. What other choice do we have?
I totally agree with what Craig is saying. I mean, you know, we can't sit back and just allow them to continue to do this because they're going to find ways. Well, we can't pay the fines. And so no. Nonetheless, the bottom line is once something is done, there's got to be repercussions and consequences. That's part of life, and we all know that. So if you're out here and your child is 12, 13 years old, riding up and down the street with a bike, brand new, quite sure that he wasn't old enough to purchase it, so the parents purchase it. They allow them to go out here and ride around, don't know where the child is, and all of there's repercussions and consequences. And whether or not you can afford it or not, like the IRS don't care whether or not I can afford a bill. They will snatch up my phone, they'll get the home. If I'm a father and I don't pay my child support, I wind up going to jail, or they'll take your driver's license away from you. So we all know there's repercussions and consequences, and regardless of the age or the household situation financially, we gotta do something about it. And I don't think we should allow them having a leeway out or be able to get away from doing that if they're coming up with these excuses. And they'll come up with 1,000 excuses, but nonetheless, like Greg was saying, they're out there, they're doing it. So there's repercussions and consequences to step up and handle your business.
I'm going to add one other thing. I saw one option that was given to some of these young people. Somewhere down in the South, people went to these young people that were doing this and said, hey, we've got race courses out here, you know, in some of these areas where you can come out here, ride your bikes, you know, on land or whatever, where you're not disrupting the public or whatever. So there are options, and people who, as we go back to earlier, who have the resources or the facilities to do that, we need them to step up and help us. This is a whole community problem. And it just isn't falling on the schools, you know, law enforcement, and, you know, the government. There are people out there with resources that can help us with that. And when I saw these people step up and say, hey, y'all can come out to my racetrack and race on my racetrack as much as you want to. And I thought that was a great idea that person stepped up and did that.
Okay. And let me also play I guess a tape that I think this is from the Cleveland area, I believe. Let's take a look at this one. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, you'll see more police at West Farms this weekend after a TikTok post promoted a so-called teen takeover there. The post has more than 75,000 views since it went up yesterday.
NBC Connecticut's Andrew Rohn explains why police say these fast-moving social media gatherings are so hard to predict and why they're warning parents tonight.
The TikTok post was AI generated. Let me show it to you. It says CT Takeover, West Farms Mall, one state, one culture, one takeover. And actually the picture of the mall is AI generated. That's not what it looks like. This is what the mall actually looks like. But the caption on the TikTok post, be there or be square. You see this post from a law enforcement perspective. What's the first thing you think about?
Planning and intelligence gathering.
Retired Hartford Chief of Detectives Brian Foley says he's spoken with West Hartford and Farmington police and that they're taking the post seriously.
You can expect to see license plate readers, more uniform presence at the mall, as well as additional security.
He says the high police presence shouldn't dissuade visitors, but parents should be aware of whether their kids are going.
If they're going to the mall and they're not going to go shopping, it's probably not a good idea.
Farmington police in a statement say there will be a strict zero-tolerance enforcement policy. Any unlawful, disruptive, or dangerous behavior will be addressed promptly. Kelly Jones said he left a comment on the TikTok for any kids thinking about going.
I just said no, don't do it, because you know the police is going to be out here, and obviously I know they know it's going to be a takeover Saturday, so don't go. That's just a rules instruction for all the young kids.
I'm for teens having places to go, but I don't know about taking over a space where other people are, other than teens.
At Buckland Hills Mall in March, Manchester police warned parents about similar takeovers, writing, "We also ask rideshare drivers to avoid transporting unaccompanied minors to the mall."
The people working in the malls and the vendors and the mall administrators, they need to keep up with this. As difficult as it is, this is where we're at.
And Andrew joins.
So what are your thoughts on that? Particularly the response of the that the former chief of detectives was recommending.
He was very proactive. They had put a plan in place to address their concerns. They probably did a social media campaign, letting them know that the police were going to be there, that they were going to allow it. I think that they were right on top of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Craig was saying about that, and I think that that's one of the ways of getting out to them. I think I like what the young man said, the one that had the earphones on. And again, that goes back to some of the social media and having some of the children, these young adults saying, "No, this is not a good idea. I'm not going." And then along with the educators, getting out there also and letting them know this is not a good thing to do. There's more problems than there is about the fun that they may have and the damage they may cause, not only to the people that are there, but also to themselves. So the things that the chief was talking about, I think it should be universal, is trying to make sure we put as much information out there why this is not a good idea.
Okay. And I guess, and this one, I want to show this one from Tampa because this, again, we talk about these takeovers and so forth. This is what you don't want to see happen.
I need some of the units that have their vehicle over at Gasparilla Plaza. If they can return to their vehicle, we need somewhere to put these 10-15s in. Okay, 10 units with vehicles at Gasparilla Plaza, please return to your vehicle.
And as you can see from the flare from the helicopter, there's people running everywhere. There's fights going on, and of course, we can all agree this is absolute bullshit. You know what I mean? This, you should not have this kind of disorder and chaos going on anywhere. Whether or not you have, recreational facilities and stuff to do, the tearing up other people's stuff is not the thing to do just because you don't have a basketball hoop or you don't have a place to play hopscotch or whatever. And so, those are the things that are also happening. And to Craig's point, statistically speaking, the numbers are going down. But although now you have to kind of second guess that in light of what's going on in D.C. with the crime reporting allegations. So you just wonder, where do we go from here? Because obviously we can't continue to have folks. You show up to Walmart or to Bloomingdale's, wherever you're shopping, and here we go. There's 40, 50 people out there fighting and raising hell, and can't even get into the mall or out of the mall because of what's going on. I mean, do we just totally shut the malls down between 8 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon? Do we put laws in place that if you are 17 years and younger, unless you're working, you have to be accompanied by an adult at all times? What do you think, particularly as seasoned educators and seasoned police veterans, that may have some type of input on this foolishness?
Well, I think that the things that you're saying, Chief, are some of the headlines on how to address this issue. And one of the things, and this is something for us all to think about, 99% of what we see is people that look like us. I'm saying that to my knowledge, if anybody's seen a takeover with white teens, I like to see it. I haven't seen one, not that they don't do it, but it's us. And sometimes we have to identify with what we're doing as a society and how it looks to other people in other geographical areas that we live in. So it's a us problem based upon what I've seen. And I think that we have to address it together in regards to bringing the parents in, some of these young folks in, some of the educators in, come into an environment where we can come up with some of these solutions. We may be able to curtail some of this activity. Quite naturally, you still have some out there that are going to do whatever they're going to do, but I think we can lessen the possibility of it happening more often than not if we come together and work on this problem as a group.
Sure. And I've seen incidents involving all races of young people, but I agree. I think that regardless of who is engaged, we've got a problem, and these things, because we've all had to deal with discipline, whether it's from Dr. T and Sophisticated Shannon dealing with problem children and students, to what we saw in the street. It's once you stop paying attention to the little things, this is what you start to see occurring. So I think that one of the things, and I think a lot of this stuff starts in the home, because again, if Dr. T's mom or Craig, your mom, had come down and pick you up from the station, what would have happened? All hell would have broke loose, right? Your mother wouldn't have even have said hello. This is the only sound you would have heard. That would have been it, right?
Hey, look, and they would have probably left us down there.
That's right. That's all it
I
would
was
have
about
been.
to say that. I wouldn't have got a ride home.
That's right. They just said, that's it. You know what I mean? And then especially if she had to come out there. You remember, Craig, when you knew a mother had to come down to the station and it was 2:00 in the morning, and she came down to the station with her rollers in the hair and that tore up pink robe and them run over slippers. Somebody was getting their ass whipped. They was getting their
that's when we
ass
don't
whipped.
have them grandmoms and the moms like
That's
that.
right.
No more.
That's right.
So
Show
they
up in
would have come down there with a halter top on and some coochie shorts on.
Yeah, you're right, man. You can't come down there. You come in the live and say, "Excuse me, miss, your butt's falling out." You just can't have that. And I agree with you, Sarge. That's nonsense.
Well, one of the things that I saw down here, I was at a store. It was auto trying to get some parts for my car or something. This guy had on his store in the front, he said, no, your pants have to be pulled up, and da da da.
Right.
He had this on before you walked in the store. And I think if we sit back and think about it, that's his store. He has a right to express himself about the clientele that comes in there. And it was specific. And, you cannot come in here looking like that.
That's
and
right.
it didn't have anything about what color, race you were, whatever. Just coming in looking presentable. And I think that you also have to take in consideration as well. So
agreed.
Some of this it's a us problem and not a we problem. It's a us problem.
I agree. Totally agree. So I guess as we wrap this up, and I'm really appreciative that we've had the perspective of seasoned educators and seasoned law enforcement folks. As we, and I know we didn't even scratch the surface, but as we close it out, what would be those, if you could just wave your magic wand and just recommend, one or two things, what would you throw out there for the public to consider, and for, those that make the laws and the rules to consider, that you think may help with some of this stuff?
I like to hear what the educators think.
I think the parents need to parent. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I see with some of our students, or most of our students, that do very well in our educational system. Parents are involved, or their family unit is involved, but they need to parent. I mean, it's happening this year again. Parents are coming to school and yelling at the staff, "Why isn't my kid graduating?" You're supposed to let me know. We have an electronic system that is live, where you should know where your kid is, right, and what they're doing in the classes. We try to send everything regarding missing assignments, and we talk about having enough credits, and it's the parents have to understand, hey, it's your fault too. So I just say, parents have to parent.
Agreed. Sophisticated Shannon, what do you think? Because you've dealt with some of these problem knucklehead kids.
It's such a hard question. I do agree with Dr. T. I believe that parents do need to parent, but it seemed like the parents are getting younger and younger, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And versus you used to have grandma, they used to step in and raise the kids rather, but grandma's like 30, so there's nothing there no more. There's not another responsible person to help out. You know what I mean? So the dynamics keeps changing. You can't, and the young parents want to be the kids' friend, so they're doing the same thing that they're doing. So I think we just need to find more outlets for the kids. Talk to them more. I don't know. I think they still want to be kids. They just need somebody to care.
Yep.
And it does come from home, but if you don't have it at home, where do they get it from?
And I'd just like to add that when it shows up on Charles's doorsteps as a police officer, or my doorstep, or chief, when they show up in your precinct or whatever, it's totally out of control, and I agree with the two educators, Dr. T and Shannon. It starts at home. And my theory always has been, if each man took care of his own household, we wouldn't be in the predicament we are with some of the things we're seeing out there in the street.
I agree.
People are abdicating their duties as a parent. You know what I mean? And until we step up to the mic and do what we're supposed to do, we're going to continuously see these problems and these juvenile takeovers and chaos in our communities all over America. And I don't know what it's going to take, but I will say there has to be funding put in place to try to put the resources out there to give them options on things to do. They have to put the funding out there to help these kids out. You know what I mean? If they aren't funding these programs that we talked about earlier, what other options do they have?
Wow. Well, we'll drop the mic right there, man, because that's. I don't think we'll solve this tonight, but we certainly have had a good discussion about it. And again, I just appreciate you all bringing your expertise from decades of serving the citizens of D.C. and Prince George's County, Maryland. So we certainly appreciate Sergeant Yarborough and Chief Howard. We really appreciate you guys showing up and helping us out tonight, man. Because
thank you for having us.
You guys really added some great perspectives to what we were discussing this evening. So and hopefully you will. You see, the studio audience is loving you guys, as you can tell. But hopefully you guys will come back and we can continue to talk about this, because I don't think these things will be stopping anytime soon. And hopefully there won't be any more deaths and injuries as a result of these things either. So, any last words you guys have?
I just want to thank everyone and Chief, thank you for allowing us to come on and speak about this. And as far as my perspective, I think that it's just a totality of us getting together and coming up with solutions, and they can be done. We're not going to get everybody, but we can definitely change the dynamics of the situation. So thank you for inviting us. I appreciate you, Dr. T, and Sophisticated, and Craig, and yourself, and thank you for allowing me to participate in this conversation.
Oh, and before we go, what's the name of you guys' podcast? Because I forgot to mention that you guys also have a podcast that's very informative.
Yes, sir. It's Policing
from a yeah. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Craig. Policing from a Black perspective. Yes, sir.
All right. So if you get a chance, make sure you tune in and check that out too, because they discuss some really pertinent issues and have some real lively discussions on there. So do yourself a favor and check them out.
Hey, Mike, that's POLICING, capital FABP, Policing from a Black perspective.
Okay. All right. Sounds like a plan. Well, Sophisticated, Shannon, Dr. T, what's going on? Take us out.
Thank you, everyone, for listening tonight with Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. Good night.
Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. No watered down issues. We serve the good stuff. Good stuff.
Only one can bring this much fun. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.